Hi, I'm Rianjali, and you're watching me on Urbanasian.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Krishna Parikh, and I am talking to an amazing singer-songwriter. She's done so many things. She's a filmmaker, a new student, a lyricist, and just I can't wait to get to know Rianjali a lot more through her work and all the things that she's done in the past. So welcome to Urban Asian. And hello, Rianjali. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for meeting with me this evening. I know it's late, but well, it's late for us in our 30s, right?
Yes, we're staying up late for this.
Yeah.
So, let me kind of take you back to your musical journey. I know you've done a lot of work that we'll get into, but take me back to your journey, how it all kind of started for you.
Wow. So when I was born, no, I'm kidding.
We're not.
To be honest, I've been singing since I was like 6 years old, but it was never really like it was, how a lot of us kind of sing.
Mhm.
I guess I feel like South Asians just grow up with something creative, right? Either like dance or,
Music in the back, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. So, but my dad, I will say, he actually was a very popular folk Bengali singer back in Bangladesh.
yeah.
And
Okay.
he was like on the radio when he was 17 years old. And even when we were in New York, my family is from New York. We used to get into cabs in the 90s and like random Bengali cab drivers would be like making conversation because it was just a few of us at the time
Yeah.
and talking to my mom and eventually asking like, "Oh, what's your name? What's your last name?" This and that. Whenever they would hear Bhomik, they would be like, "Are you by chance related to Dulal Bhomik?" So he was like kind of a big deal apparently. So,
Wow.
I ended up learning Hindustani classical from his guru's daughter. But for a while, it was kind of like, I definitely did it because I enjoyed it. But in
Mhm.
Hindustani classical is also very like rigid, and there's a very specific kind of structure in teaching styles. And I was also going to school listening to NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and R&B and things like that. So that sort of came by itself. So when I got older, my dad kind of didn't really like that. And music was not, there was no plan for music to be part of my life the way that it is now. So that was kind of my early years, and the whole journey of how it actually ended up happening was sort of by chance, I will say.
That is amazing. So you already had sort of a celebrity in your family, I would say.
I guess so, right? The love will make.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
awesome. So tell me about I know you've done a lot of your own music. You've collaborated with really big artists. You've done stage shows. What has been like one of your most favorite moments in your journey?
Let's see. I would say one of my, I guess, well, it was kind of like almost like a dream that I don't think I even really had, but it was being able to perform with U2 and AR Rahman on stage because I actually got introduced to U2 when I was 12 years old, which was kind of uncommon for a 12-year-old. That's not
Yeah.
really, you don't really listen to U2 as a 12-year-old, but
I don't
um,
think I knew you two at that time, but yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, right. And it's kind of got like an old soul kind of rock music. And I was like this 12-year-old singing with or without you. But like, I had a friend who introduced me to the song. And so I fell in love with you too. That is not something that was in my radar whatsoever, even within my musical journey once I started. But AR Sir gave me the opportunity to write for them because they were doing a collaboration. So I came on his team. And once we wrote this song called Ahimsa, that we all collaborated on it. And I mean, first of all, walking into the Electric Lady studio, which is known to be one of the most historic studios in all of, I guess, musical history, but in New York City as well. I
Mhm.
walked in and I was like, well, that's Bono. That's ridiculous, and like I was like, that's crazy. So that was definitely a moment. And then being on stage with them, that was really cool. It was in the Joshua Tree Mumbai tour in 2019. Another really cool moment. This might not seem like a big deal to other people, but it was the NBA show actually. I got to perform the national anthem. And the reason that was so cool to me is because my brother got to come and we got a couple of floor seats given by the stadium. And my brother got to come and he was who introduced me to basketball when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
He like desperately wanted me to be his little brother. So I went with him everywhere. I watched basketball. I wore his clothes. I thought I was as cool as him, and he's 5 years older than me. So we grew up like watching the Knicks, and this wasn't the Knicks, but it was still a game in New York. And he saw me on the big screen. He took a photo, sent it to my parents, and he was like, "This is crazy." He was like, "This is unreal." You know, he's been watching.
Flip.
Yeah, he was like, he's been watching the NBA since he was like 7 years old, and he was like, however old he was at the time in his 30s, looking at me, looking at his little sister, and I think that was a really cool moment for me.
And I think like not to like put any labels on that, but just being a South Asian on that stage singing, the national anthem in front of
Yeah.
everybody. That's amazing. Like not a lot of people, I guess South Asians get to do that at that level. And I
Yeah.
think you did it like quite early in your career too.
Yeah, I guess I never know because the pandemic really put like a weird halt in all of our timelines, right? Like I thought I was kind of in like the I would say I was kind of in like the middle stages and then, sort of going somewhere and then everything stopped. So I can't even tell time anymore, to be honest. Like I can't believe that I'm turning 34 this year. I still feel like I'm like, oh, my 30th
Yeah.
birthday never happened,
I was
So
just thinking about this too. I was like, when I think of 2019, it's like, oh, yeah, that was yesterday, but that was actually
yeah.
5 years ago. It's
Yeah, it's
insane
insane.
to me. But
Insane. Yeah.
anyways, so talk about your latest release with A.R. Rahman for the Go film. And I've seen the video, I've heard your lyrics, and I know there's a funny backstory as to how he contacted you for the music. So yeah, walk us through what that process was like.
Yeah, I've been working with AR Sir for about I would say like 6, 7 years now, which is really cool. Kind of got my start in this industry with him. He believed in me when I had absolutely really nothing. Like I didn't have anything to show for it besides my personal love and talent, right? Like there's a lot of talented people out there. I'm not trying to be like, oh, humble, whatever, but like truly, there's a lot of talented people out there. And I'm not the only one. I never thought like, oh, you're special. Like, I just kind of thought, well, I can sing and, I can write a little bit. And I didn't really think much of it, but he saw something in me that definitely didn't see as well. And so it's been a long time that I've been working with him. So every time I get a phone call, I know it's going to be chaos, number one. And number two, I just don't know what to expect. So it's like, in retrospect, always cool. In the moment, I panic. You know what I mean? Like that hasn't changed. And I think it's because you always want to make sure you want to do your best work. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to disappoint him. He's counting on you, right? And there's also the factor that even if you do something for him, it may not go out there. And that I don't take personally anymore. When I first entered the industry, I was like, oh no, I didn't get that. I thought I sang so well. And I was like, well, it's sometimes not about you. There's
Yeah.
most of the time, actually, it's not about you, I will say. There's a whole production team involved. There's directors, producers, composers. I mean, there's so many voices that are gonna ask for something specific. So when I first got my
Levels of like different people that
Totally, yeah.
are,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. The first thing I ever got rejected for was I did some demo vocals that AR asked me to do for a Gurinder Chadha film. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I love Gurinder Chadha, love Bend It Like Beckham. And I never heard back. And then he said, hey, I'm sorry, she kind of wanted a different style. I was like, I could do a different style, but in that moment, it's over, right? And
Mhm.
he's like, it's not, it's like next time, next thing. And now I just keep rolling with it. Like it just doesn't even brush me anymore. So, but I always know that if I do it, it may not come out. So basically, he lives a couple of streets away from me in LA when he's here. So when he was here a couple of months ago, he reached out, he said, come by, I'm working on a film and I want to do the credit song. And I love the fact that it was a credit song because there's a lot more freedom, right? It's the end of the movie. You're kind of like wrapping up the whole thing. So I started writing. It was pouring that day, so I didn't actually end up going over. And then the Grammys happened. So he went
Yeah.
off to the Grammys and then he had to go back to India. He's got a ton of projects on his plate. I had other things going on afterwards. So he didn't get back to me. So I was like, okay, long story short, we went through back and forth, maybe like 4 or 5 times, changing the lyrics, changing this, picking different melodies, And at that time, I think I didn't even know what the movie was about. I was like, he was telling me like bits and pieces, and he would be like, "Oh, you know this, right?" And I was like, "I have no idea
I
what
have
you're
no
talking
idea.
about. But, in his own head, he's got so many different things going on in his brain. He probably thinks he's like telling me, and you just have to roll with the punches. You got to be like, yeah, yeah, I got it, And so I actually have in my own photo booth on this laptop. I panicked, and when he called me, I started recording myself and put it on speaker so I could hear back what he was saying. And you should see my face in the video. I'm like, yeah, yeah, like I watched it back and I was like, I look so scared for some reason. It's just so funny. But I recorded myself. I recorded his call and I just kind of tried my best. I let him know I had a lot of travel coming up. We still hadn't finalized anything in Denver. He called me. I was writing at the airport. Then I
Mhm.
went to New York. I had a back-to-back travel plans. And so I went to New York. I had a performance. And then the day that I was flying out to India for this documentary I was working on. The day I was flying out, I get a phone call. Hey, we've got to finalize this. And I was like, oh, it wasn't final. Like I had no idea. But again, this is all in my head. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Let's just go. I don't have my equipment. I'm not in my studio. So I was like, okay, I've got my little mic. My little mic stopped working.
Oh no.
So it was 10 p.m. at night. I shot him an email and I was like, will you wait for me till the morning? And he was like, yes. I booked a studio at 6 a.m. I told my dad, I was like, will you drive me? He's like, you've got a flight today. I was like, just drive me. It's raining outside. I get to the studio. I found something. I recorded, I FaceTimed sir, and he approved everything in my 2 hour session. Literally, we had 2 hours done in an hour and a half, finished edits, sent off everything, never heard back, went to India, saw online that the song came out.
Wow, okay, that's a good surprise. That is just like out there. There's no like confirmation, like you're all good.
No, 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 no. Don't ever expect a pat on the back or like a hey, we're good to go. I was just like, okay, just gotta forget about this for now. And the funniest thing is, it's been 7 years. It never changes. You would think I would be like, I'm fine. No, the panic is still there, but it's
I feel
because
like then it would be like with him if it's no news and it's good news. If he doesn't get back to
yeah,
you then,
I
but then
hope
you
so.
don't know if he's gonna get back to you like 2 weeks later, like, hey, can we finish this?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was that after every couple
Yeah.
of weeks. But you always I have so much respect for him. He's like a mentor of sorts. So I never want to disappoint him. So I was like, I will try my best. I'll try everything I can. And going to the studio, booking a studio at 6 in the morning before a flight was the absolute most I could have done. There's nothing, if after that the song didn't make it, it's
Yeah.
not under my
It's
control.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I've heard the song and I've seen the video and I think it's amazing. And I
Thank
think that I've seen the trailer of the Goat Life as well.
Yeah.
So I think the song itself does justice to the message of the movie and everything too. So kudos to you. And it's a regional film, it's a Malayali film, I think, right? That
Yeah.
the song, yeah, the song is so that's awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
and I believe it's actually being screened like worldwide. Like you can watch it
okay.
in Long Beach and stuff. So I think that's really dope because it's even though it's a Malayalam film, they're really trying to cater to all international audiences as well because the
Mhm.
story is based off of a real life story. So
Mhm.
I think that was really amazing. And the Malayali community reached out a lot and was like, we've been looking forward to this story for a very long time. So
Wow.
kind of cool. I'm not familiar with the film industry of the Malayali community, but it was really cool to be able to see that. They have got a big fan base.
It's pretty big. It's pretty
Yeah.
big. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's awesome. I think I like seen a couple of like Magali films, and they're always like slice of life, kind of
Yeah.
really touching. Um,
Right.
but kudos to you. I think that's really huge. Can
Thank
you
you.
tell me a little bit about the documentary that like you were in with A.R. Rahman and like what that journey? Because I know you were like touring, was it Europe, with him? Or
So
in
it wasn't a documentary, it was actually a film that we worked on. Um,
okay,
so it's a scripted virtual reality film. And
okay.
it's called La Musk, and he's been working on it since I was in Chennai, which was 2017, 2016, 2017, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, he basically, when I asked him, it's interesting because you would think, why a virtual reality film, right? A virtual reality film would require something like a Vision Pro at this point, right? When you've got to put on the headset and everything. Technology we didn't have back then. In the last 6 years, so much knowledge and has been gained in the virtual reality space. But
Mhm.
I mean, he's a pioneer of sorts, right? Like everything that he's done, he's really pioneered. So
Mhm.
he told me, he said, I've won a Grammy, I've won an Oscar,
Mhm.
I've kind of done those things. And he's like, you have to keep learning. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a beautiful thing. So he gave it a shot, and I think that's incredible. It was really tough.
That's
Like it
awesome.
was hard to figure out the details and the nuances of how to film. There's traditional film and then there's virtual reality film. So sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. I am a musician, but I was in the room sometimes when we were talking about the script. And because I was a songwriter, he was like, maybe Ria, you should look at the script because you have a way with words. And
Mhm.
so I was like, sounds good. And I think I learned in that moment, well, someone is asking me something and for my opinion, I should not be afraid.
Right.
And so I just kind of went through the script and I was like, this seems a little this. I don't know what I'm talking about. This was like, I was 26 years old. I've never looked at a script in my life. Now at this point, it's different. I've looked at many scripts, but at the time I was like, just trust your instinct. So that's actually how I got the job of script supervisor for Lamas. Um,
Ah,
Basically I ended up going to Italy and I got to go to Paris and I wrote multiple songs for the film, actually, one of them being one of the big songs called What's on a Man's Mind. That one came out, I believe, last year. There was like a really big premiere at Cannes Film Festival. So that was really awesome. I think the challenging thing about this specific film is that it needs an actual installation to watch in. So they are building those installations throughout the world. So they actually did one in LA for about a month. And it was really, really cool. Like their Intel has worked with them to create new chairs, like chairs that have never been created. And it's an
that's
entire
pretty
experience.
cool.
Yeah. I wish you were actually here during that time because it's like nothing you've ever seen before. There's a limited number of seating and you all go in and there's like a fragrance that comes in first and you sit down, you put a headset on and you are in it, like you're completely in it. And we filmed that for 2 months in Italy. It was pretty challenging and incredible. So um,
Wow.
it's not something that you'll see in like regular theaters, but I hope that it'll come out, in more. I hope that it'll be more accessible soon.
Have you heard of the Vegas Sphere?
Yes, I have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It could be like shown there because
Yeah, I
it's
think
pretty
that would
cool.
be so. It's interestingly enough, one of our cinematographers for La Musk is one of the main engineers and like work people who worked on the sphere. So they're in touch. AR and him are in touch, and
It could be a reality. You never know.
you never know, honestly. It was really cool. Oddly enough, I learned that I ended up playing the voiceover for the female actress, so that's another
Oh,
thing.
okay, okay. Well,
So
then okay for
yeah,
Rianjali.
yeah,
The new virtual
voiceovers.
reality
I
movie.
do it all.
That's awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So talking about doing it all, I know you wear many, many hats, right? So we talked about you being a singer-songwriter with AR. And I also said in the beginning that you are a filmmaker. So
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about that journey? I know you've had short films that have won awards. And you have a feature documentary that's also coming up. So can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, I won't say that filmmaking came by accident, but I will say that I didn't see it coming. I think storytelling has always been my strong suit, whether I knew it or not. When I was a young kid, I was doing things I didn't know. I was writing a lot of creative writing prompts in class to the point where I had this one teacher who would just give me random prompts to write that she wouldn't give the class, and she would take them and read them and give me feedback. And a handful of my teachers really invested that in me, and but I didn't know what it was, like I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, this is fun, but did I ever tell my parents? No. Did I ever show my parents? Absolutely not. But a handful of teachers knew, and I could get why they were pushing me because they were like, why is she so quiet about this? But they don't know how we grow up, right? They don't know that we are not raised to be boisterous and loud about what we think we want to do. People didn't even know I sang. I was in choir. I was all the way in the back, and they had no idea that I was actually, one of the few people in that entire chorus that actually wanted to sing. And so I think storytelling came naturally. The way that I songwrite is not necessarily like, I would say, like a Beyonce type song. It's a lot more, I like to envision a whole thing, whether it be a linear story or whether it be kind of like putting together pieces of someone's life. Everything that I've written has that kind of I guess, direction to it. I've always also loved cameras, and again, didn't know that I was any good at it. So my husband actually, we got married in 2019, and he had the question, do you think there are any Hindu priestesses? And I was like, I doubt it. And he went and researched and he found somebody in Brooklyn, and we ended up having her marry us. And she was like the coolest person ever. Everyone in our community was like, what the hell? But then they really loved it when it happened. So, it was a whole thing. And he was like, we should just like film her. I'm like, yeah, let's take our crappy camera and let's go. And that's exactly what we did. We had absolutely no clue what we were doing. And that documentary was just a 12-minute short. And we ended up winning the South Asian Film Festival of America. And that definitely shocked me for sure, because again, I edited the film. Like, oh, actually, sorry, no, I didn't edit that one. But prior to that, I'd done like one or two things called Courageous. That was a really great concept, but I was just filming my dad and Kunal's dad. That's what we were doing, And so when that happened, I was like, well, Kunal, my husband, he's very much into this stuff too, but he just never had someone to, I guess, like work with and partner with and, really just go for it. And I was like, let's do it. What is stopping us? And pandemic started. So that was awesome. But once the pandemic ended, we had the script in our hand from a friend, and we really just started to dig deeper. And I would just call, I would call SAG office in LA every day and just ask questions. I had absolutely no idea what we were doing. I didn't know what permits we needed. I didn't know how to find actors. But I don't know, we just ended up somehow doing it. And then we built our production company around that. And now we've got people sending us scripts. We've got like 6 projects on our table. Sometimes I don't even know how I'm handling that, to be honest. And this documentary that we're doing is our first feature. And, it's helmed by this woman in New Jersey who came to me because of the documentary that she had seen previously that we had done. And I think that's a testament to us because again, like I said, we just did it because we wanted to. We didn't have like the technical skills. I can look back at it and say, oh, I would have changed this, I would have changed that. But the heart was there and the story was there. And since then, I made it a point to really learn much more, get the technical sides down, really practice on the camera. I can't tell you much about a camera, but I can tell you what I can see. And I know what I'm looking for when I'm filming. So I'm like, I'm picking up the camera now. I'm producing, I haven't directed yet, but maybe one day. It's just all really exciting. And as I get older, like newer things are opening up. So it's really cool.
That is amazing. And I feel like, storytelling is such a emotional journey. So out of like the less technical you are with storytelling, the better it is for the viewer to like really resonate with the story. So I think you're doing something right.
I hope so. I
So
really hope
yeah,
so.
no, keep doing that. And like we're so excited to, hear about your journey and see like how far you've come. And we're super excited to see like what more you do in terms of filmmaking, songs, songwriting. As far as your personal music goes, what is happening with that? Are you releasing anything soon? I know there's something in the works, so that's why I ask.
Yeah, I am. I definitely am. I actually just emailed the potential mix engineer today. So I'm really excited. I've had a lot of songs in the bank, but I've been composing for film so much more lately that it's taken a little bit of a backseat. And I didn't want to rush it. I didn't want to rush through these songs. I wanted to be happy with them. So I think I'm ready. Really, we're just going to get into the mixing process. I'm going to do a couple of visualizers. Honestly, I'm not even like stressed about it. I'm just like happy to get it out there. It doesn't feel like stressful anymore. I'm just so excited to get back into releasing my original music. It doesn't feel like pressure anymore because all these other things happening in my life are fulfilling me in other ways that I just want this out in the world. So, this hopefully this new song that's coming out. I can't say a date just yet, but I'm hoping in the next like month or so I'll have a date. So, looking
Awesome. We
forward to
can't
that.
wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Although I might have already heard it.
Maybe, yeah.
Point. Thank you so much, Rianjali. This was so fun. I learned getting to know you and your journey so much more, and I'm sure everyone here watching at Urbanasian would love to know more about you too. Any words for somebody who's probably in your shoes or kind of getting into their creative journey, or just your fans?
Oh man, it's so weird to say fans, but I know that that exists. It's just always weird to be like fans. I'm always appreciative of anyone who supports. It means a lot because I know it takes time to do that. To anyone who's getting started, this will sound probably a little cheesy, but you just have to do it. Like fear is the thing that stopped me most of the time, and it feels so good to have not be a barrier. It doesn't mean you're not going to fail. It doesn't mean you're not going to get rejections and you're not going to feel certain ways, but you just have to do stuff. Otherwise, no one's going to know what you do, right? Whether it be good or bad, just make stuff and make it happily and reach out to people. There's a lot of people who are actually willing to share advice. I'm one of them. You know, I've always been somebody who is pretty open
I
to
can
talking
attest to
to
that.
people. Yeah, I think it's important, right?
Mhm.
So there will, but you know, you'll meet people along the way. Maybe you don't want to talk, who don't want to give the time, and that's fine. Just keep moving on to the next one. You will find people, you will find support. It's not easy, but just do it because it makes you happy.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great advice. And thanks again for your time, Rianjali. It was wonderful talking to you. And
Thank you so much for all the great questions and conversation.
thank you.